Hello everyone. If you like what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing, liking, and commenting. It would really help the channel out quite a bit. Thank you very much.
Complete Marine Division have been put ashore on this island, which comprises less than 15 square miles. And it has already taken 3 days of intense, severe, bloody fighting to secure not even a quarter of the island.
The time, February 1945. The place, a jungle of coral and stone called Iwo Jima. Most heavily fortified island in the world where United States Marines fought for 26 days in the toughest battle in history. Their objective, to deliver a knockout blow that would seal the fate of the enemy. For 26 days, uncommon valor was their common virtue.
A Common Virtue, a program commemorating one of the most heroic chapters in Marine Corps history, the Battle for Iwo Jima. This anniversary broadcast is presented as a public service by this station in tribute to the pride, loyalty, and uncommon valor that have characterized America's great force in readiness, the United States Marine Corps.
August 1942. Across the Central Pacific, a string of island fortresses formed a solid line of defense against the heart of the Japanese homeland. American military strategy called for conquest of these key islands. Once captured, they would become takeoff points for American air and naval forces to strike at enemy supply lines, industrial and commercial centers in the Japanese home islands, thus bringing about the final destruction of the enemy's war-making resources. In August 1942, the United States Marines, highly trained to fight on land, at sea, and in the air, made the first of a series of landings on these enemy-held islands. For 30 months, enemy forces were dealt one setback after another by the most highly skilled amphibious fighting force in all history. The Marine Corps, in preparing for the Pacific campaign, had modernized the old concepts of amphibious warfare. They developed a whole new arsenal of amphibious equipment, and by February of 1945, the enemy line of defense was ready to crumble. On Tarawa, New Britain, the Marshalls, Saipan, Tinian, Guam, the Marines had landed, the battle was won, and the situation was well in hand. Now they faced a new objective. It was another of the small island strongholds, but it had a special significance. Victory on this island would, for the first time, place our naval and air forces within striking distance of Tokyo. But victory here would also demand of them all the courage, determination, and comradeship that had brought them over 5,000 miles of ocean. For this was the one stronghold the enemy could not afford to lose. This was Iwo Jima, the Gibraltar of the Pacific.
The island was shaped like a giant fan of solid rock, all covered with black volcanic ash. Didn't even look like it was worth fighting for. But the enemy had completed 2 airfields, and their planes were taken off from here to attack the bases we'd already secured. Nobody had to tell it to the Marines. We knew it was worth fighting for.
And the enemy knew it, too.
Above all, we shall dedicate ourselves and our entire strength to the defense of Iwo Jima.
So spoke General Kuribayashi, enemy commander at Iwo Jima. The enemy had spent 20 years fortifying the island with blockhouses, pillboxes, and a vast network of protective underground tunnels. Now the time had come for this defense to be tested.
On D-Day -3, Navy guns began to soften up the island so we could land. Our planes began to strafe and bomb enemy installations.
As D-Day approached, the 4th and 5th Marine Divisions were selected for the assault on Iwo Jima. Together with supporting units, they formed the 5th Amphibious Corps. On a calm, quiet sea, the Marines waited in grim silence, watching the central control vessel for a signal. H hour was set at 0900. Each man knew the plan of attack for that first day. Each man would play a vital role in the attack. As Marines, they would land on the beaches with the most efficient fighting equipment in history and the expert knowledge of how to use it. But more important than that, they would show the enemy that a Marine's most effective weapon is one that cannot be seen. They would show the enemy that special quality that sets United States Marines apart from all other fighting men. A pride in their corps, in their loyalty to each other. A 200-year-old tradition of comradeship that has made the Marine Corps the most cohesive fighting unit in the world.
On D-Day, the plan called for us to drive directly across the island at the southern tip, where it was narrowest. We had two goals, Airfield number 1 and Mount Suribachi. Our aim was to capture both that first day.
A signal flag was lowered on the central control vessel. 500 landing craft headed for the beaches, advancing in 10 waves. The sea suddenly seemed to be alive.
The first wave hit the beach at 0902. We waded inland through volcanic ash that came up to our ankles. There was almost no opposition. It looked like we'd be able to knife right across the plain to the opposite shore.
Everything was so quiet, it seemed to be easier than any other landing. But somehow it seemed too easy. Pretty soon we found out why. The lead battalions of the 4th and 5th Divisions tried to cross the Ashen Terrace just before the landing beaches. That's when the quiet ended.
From their fortified positions on Mount Suribachi, the enemy was looking right down our throats. They had us pinned down on the beach and we needed help. Our planes were sent in again to hit Suribachi from the air. Support ships delivered point-blank fire.
We fell short of our goal that first day. Our line stretched across the neck of land at the base of Suribachi to the fringe of Airfield number 1.
But the gallant Marine amphibious force had gained a toehold on the southern tip of the island, and they clung to it, as Mount Suribachi was subjected to 72 more hours of continuous bombardment from our naval guns and aircraft. D-Day Fuss 4, and on-the-scene correspondent describes the final airstrike against the extinct volcano stronghold.
The sky is still black with planes hovering back and forth over that ridge. We see another plane going down on a straight and run up near the western side of the ridge, a little bit too far away for you to hear it. These planes are giving the Marines real support, the kind they need and the kind they deserve.
Another attack was mounted against Suribachi. The Marines were backed up by tanks, 37-millimeter guns and half-tracks with 75-millimeter cannon. They drove forward to the base of the mountain. By late morning, they had the mountain completely surrounded. Now there was nowhere to go but up. The 28th Marines began to scale the slopes of Suribachi. In the command ship standing offshore, the order was given to cease fire. The naval guns became silent as the Marines made the climb. At 10:15, they scrambled over the lip of the crater. There they were challenged by a small defending force of enemy troops. A short but fierce fight erupted. Enemy resistance was put down. At the base of the mountain, other Marine units waited for a sign that Suribachi was ours. On the crater, some of the men had located a length of Japanese iron pipe. They secured a small American flag to one end. The flag was raised. Suribachi was ours. As one eyewitness viewed it, the Iwo Jima flag raising was the single biggest morale builder of any battle ever fought. The eyewitness, Paul White, officer in charge of Marine combat photography in the Pacific, on special assignment for the Secretary of the Navy for the Iwo campaign.
I saw men scramble out of foxholes and stand right up in the open, risking the danger of enemy fire, just to cheer the sight of the flag flying over Suribachi. It was a great boost for our men, but also served to kick the enemy's morale out from under him. They knew from other campaigns that Marines only held a flag raising after an island was secured. It was a sort of unwritten signal that the battle was won. They never dreamed we'd raise a flag before an island was secured. By reversing our behavior pattern and planting that flag up on Suribachi, we dealt the enemy a psychological jolt. They never really recovered from it. Until the day that the battle for Iwo ended, any one of the enemy would have given his life to destroy that flag. Many of them tried. Many did give their lives. But that flag was planted to stay, and stay it did.
On March 16, 1945, the conquest of Iwo Jima was complete. American bombers were now just 4 hours away from Tokyo. The Marine amphibious assault had broken the backbone of the enemy's line of defense. But the courageous saga of Iwo Jima was brought home most vividly to America through a war correspondent's photograph of the flag raising on Mount Suribachi. For most Americans everywhere, the sight of battle-weary Marines struggling against a heavy wind to plant the stars and stripes on a remote island in the Pacific personified the courage and heroism under fire displayed by the Marines who fought on Iwo Jima. It's perhaps one of the most famous single photographs ever taken, and it served as the inspiration for one of the most glorious tributes ever made to the fighting spirit of free men.
During the close association with the Marines was an inspiration to me and increased my admiration for the men of the Corps. There are countless people who, for a very long time, have expressed the wish that Marines be commemorated and memorialized for their brave deeds and bitter fighting in so many far places.
The speaker, Felix de Weldon, American sculptor of Austrian descent, who, less than 24 hours after the event, began preliminary work on a memorial statue to the Marines who fought the battle for Iwo Jima.
To put my true feelings into words would be beyond my own powers of expression here today. A sculptor does not work with words. His medium is bronze and stone, and through this medium I have expressed my true feelings for the Corps and for those who died fighting with the Marines in 1775.
De Weldon dedicated himself to this memorial, receiving close cooperation from the Marine Corps. When he was finished, some 9.5 years later, the flag raising at Suribachi had been immortalized in the largest bronze statue in the world, the Marine Corps War Memorial in Arlington, Virginia. The men who fought and won the battle for Iwo Jima upheld the most outstanding tradition in the United States Marine Corps, being a Marine, and all that it implies. Its meaning can be found in the words of Lieutenant General Howland M. Smith, commanding general of the 5th Amphibious Corps at Iwo Jima. In retirement at his home in La Jolla, California, General Smith offered this retrospective comment.
Uncommon valor has always been a common virtue of the Marine Corps since its very inception, and always will be as long as our flag flies.
Call it morale, call it esprit de corps, call it honor. The tradition of being a Marine is that special quality that sets the United States Marines apart from all other fighting men. It cannot be found in manuals, for it's not a tangible thing. Yet it remains the basic reason for the pride they have in their corps and in their loyalty to one another. It was not by chance that on the battle-torn beaches of Iwo Jima, uncommon valor was their common virtue.
Common virtue, commemorating the gallant struggle of the United States Marines at Iwo Jima, has been presented in tribute to the traditions and esprit de corps of the Marines and every individual in the Corps.